I'm Michael Krasny, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Gray Matter with Michael Krasny, a weekly podcast of deep dive interviews with national and international authors, journalists, tech and business experts, artists, scientists, entertainers, and opinion shapers. And you can become a member of this podcast simply by going to graymatter.show, and that's gray with an E. You can stream us live at 11 a.m. Pacific time on Fridays when we include your questions and comments, and I do invite them. We want to remind you, a wide range of intellectually engaging and timely topics, distinguished by high level content and technical excellence. Our guest this episode is a man described as one of the most influential people in the tech industry. Uber was initially created in front of him. Siri was launched in his son's bedroom, and he was the first to ride in the first Tesla with Elon Musk and the first to buy an iPhone at an Apple store. And you see him now wearing an Apple shirt. We'll talk about that. Let me describe him for you. Futurist, blogger, author, tech journalist, tech evangelist, and former Microsoft strategist. Robert Scoble is our guest for this episode, and his CV includes Fast Company, Rackspace, and podtech.net. And he was educated at San Jose State. He's still down in Silicon Valley. We welcome the founder back in 2000 of Scobleizer blog, Robert Scoble. Good to have you with us.
It's good to be here.
Well, let me just tease something. At the end of this podcast today, I'm going to have you weigh in as a major figure in the tech world on not necessarily last night's debate, but politically. You can be as partisan as you want. I'm just carrying out a tradition of saying things about debates, which I did as a broadcast journalist for decades. But I thought we'd begin by asking just a simple question of you. You still see yourself as a tech evangelist. What is the faith in technology in light of all of the downsides of technology?
Well, I was Apple's first child laborer, and I fell in love with new technology by building Apple II motherboards way back in 1978, and that's continued to this day. Um, all technology has a good and a bad, right? Cars kill 40,000 people in America every year, yet we all drive. That's a bad and a good, right? And this new technology that's coming has a lot of bad, but it has a lot of good, and it'll save many, many lives
Well, I
and
want to talk
improve
about both
lives.
the good and the bad with you, and I like the way you frame that. But still, there are those who say faith in an evangelical way. I'm talking about your roots here a little bit, Robert. Uh,
I am in Silicon Valley, so I'm surrounded by new technology and people who build it.
a lot of those who have faith, though, also are concerned, as I know you are, about the consequences. And like you're a major supporter, I believe, are you not, about autonomous vehicles and
Yeah,
what they call
totally.
self-driving cars? And yet we're more accident prone, aren't they, at this point still?
Mm, in terms of miles, that's the first of all, with AI, that's the wrong way to look at it because AI continuously improves and humans don't. And so even if it starts by killing more people per mile at the beginning, that won't last very long because it gets better and better and better. My Tesla, when I got FSD in 2018, it could barely keep in the lane on a freeway, couldn't change lanes, couldn't take off ramps, couldn't go through stoplights, couldn't do anything. Now it's driving me all the time through everything, right? So it's does it still make mistakes? Yeah, but the mistakes are going down at a pretty constant rate. So you start saying, well, how long will it be before it is perfect? 2 years, 3 years,
Well, you've made some projections. I want to look
or
at the projections that you've made, but now Waymo is out there in Phoenix and in San Francisco, very much
yeah.
present and so forth.
Yeah,
Um,
and we're not hearing stories about Waymo's crashing into things. There's
no, you're
lots
right.
of them in
Yeah.
Francisco, right?
At this point, no. But you're talking, for example, about 2028. That was a year you focused on in some of your writing. You're saying there aren't
Yeah.
even going to be that much Uber or Lyft at that point. They're going to be all robo taxis, and uh, we're talking about scale and cost here too, though, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, scale and cost, the cost is less because there's not a human in the car, right? My Tesla sitting in the garage right now is costing about $2 an hour just to sit there. Yeah, a human to it goes to $20 an hour, right? So, and that's at Uber or a Lyft, and that's cost, right? They charge you if you rented an Uber and said sit here for an hour, they charge you about $60, or take me to the airport, which takes an hour. It costs about $70, $60, $70, right? robo taxis eventually will be cheaper than that. Waymo actually is a little bit more. They're about 20% more than an Uber drive in San Francisco, but it's a way better experience.
You have a positive attitude, though. I mean, notwithstanding that, I don't mean to say that in any skeptical or negative way, but for example, I
Yeah.
was reading something you said about a lot of people complain with Teslas about waiting in line if they want to drive, say, from Northern California to Southern California. You said, hey, listen, I got three sons. They have to stop off for food, have to stop off, you know, for bathroom purposes and so forth. It's not that big a
Yeah.
deal. And you kind of
No.
write it off. But you hear people complaining like crazy.
Not if you drive down to Los Angeles from San Jose, you stop at Harris Ranch and go get yourself a hamburger. By the time you're out, your car is completely charged, and they have I don't know 70 stalls now, and there's never a line there. So
Well, you're bullish on Teslas and on all this
there's a
technology.
gas station right next by. It takes those people 5 to 10 minutes to fill up their car. You know. So-
Well, you're also talking about humanoid robots, though. We've been hearing a
Oh,
lot of projections along those lines.
I've been visiting a lot of companies lately.
Well,
Yeah.
this is Musk too. Ominous. What's his robot's name again?
Optimus.
Optimus. Excuse me. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of faith in the idea that again, scale and purpose is going to move forward with this. We're
Yeah.
going to have robots not only in factories and businesses, but in homes with.
Eventually, there's so much demand, and my brother wants a couple of these, and he's willing to pay 100 grand a piece for them. Um, because he runs a bar, and there's a lot of people like him who want a little extra help from a robot, right? Um, it's going to be a while before it gets into our homes, but it's not far. In the next decade, I think I'll have one. You can already 3D print one. There's a Y Combinator company here in Palo Alto that's 3D printing a little 4 foot high humanoid robot and for about $8,000. So, you can put that on a credit card if you really wanted to.
I thought they were around 20,000. The
Well,
Musk
this is
one.
a cheaper one, a smaller one, 3D printed one. If you're building an Optimus right now, the real cost is all the R&D that you have to do to get the models running, and they're going to want that money back. So let's say it's going to start pretty expensive for using it in a factory or some sort of business, right? Um, that demand will get filled first because they have the money to pay for these robots at a high cost. But we can see the cost of actually buying the electric motors for the fingers and the carbon fiber and the steel for the hands costs less than $10,000. So
You were
it should
talking, you
be.
were writing about their
It's
becoming pals and trusting, and pizza delivery comes, and then they'll come in and set the table for you. There's a robot will do that after it delivers the pizza.
I, I asked one company, can it throw a football? And they argued about it for a while. I said, our hands aren't good enough for that yet. Can't put the spiral on the football, but they're thinking about it because they want their robot to do weird things like that too, right? Particularly if it can throw a football accurately, it can do a whole lot of other tasks in your life.
So look out, quarterbacks. There'll be a roast for a robot like a Tom Brady one day, huh?
It might start at Tom Brady, right? Because some kid will take his robot out in front and throw football every night and learn how to throw a football or catch a football with his robot or her robot. So,
You're wearing your Apple shirt. It's a very colorful shirt. Is there still a feud going on between Musk and Tim? Do you know?
there's always a feud, and if there's not one, they start one just to aggregate attention. I was given a panel one time, and Mike Arrington, the guy who started TechCrunch, turned to me and goes, "Now you realize it's our job to entertain people. So what are we going to fight about?"
So it's
but
theater. It's
but
not.
there
It's
is a
not real. A
coming.
lot of it, or is that what you're saying?
There's real. I mean, oh man, you could ask Chat GPT about this. Ask Chat GPT what's up with the Apple feud with Google, for instance, and it lays out how Google ripped off Apple's iPhone and started Android, and how that really pissed off Steve Jobs, and how that caused a whole rift between the two companies. And Apple had to make a deal for the back end for their new AI. Well, Did they make a deal with Google? No, they went with OpenAI. That's pretty distasteful, but it's less distasteful than doing a deal with Google for some of these executives because they remember Steve Jobs and how pissed off he was.
Well, he almost took over at one point.
Yeah,
I mean, that's part of the history too, isn't it?
yeah. But you're bringing up something. We're heading to a world that is about to see a few paradigm shifts shifting all at one time. Robots are one example of this, right? And by the way, you just disappeared. I don't know. Am
Can
I
you
still
hear
here?
me?
I can hear you just fine. Um, and autonomous cars are going to bring change, augmented reality glasses are going to bring change, and robots are going to bring change, and this AI stuff that's coming literally every few minutes is really changing.
And that's something I want to
World.
really take up with you because you know a lot about it and you can give us a picture of
But
maybe what's in the
I just
future.
was on vacation using it in the museums. It knew everything in the Smithsonian. It's crazy. You take a picture of like a tractor and it tells you about the tractor. I'm like, whoa.
Well, I read some of what you've written about AI and transformation of urban areas. Let's talk about that initially because that's pretty
Yeah.
exciting and fascinating stuff, especially for cities.
Yes. But if you have a population that's using autonomous cars, why do you need so many parking lots? So even MIT had a whole simulator to simulate a city years ago, 10 years ago, right? To simulate what would happen to American cities or Western cities when autonomous cars show up. How would that change the parking lots what could you do with the parking lots, since you didn't need them as much, right? Stuff like that.
Well, there's also the managing of traffic through AI. I mean,
Ah,
just so many, a myriad number of things that we could look at. It's going to change the whole urban picture.
that might work in every city except Washington, D.C. In Washington, D.C., I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's
I
a
have.
grid and they time the lights. So you get stopped at literally every light for minutes. And there's always a camera at the intersection, so the AI can watch you and go, "Are you about to go and do something naughty to the president? We might keep you at this stoplight a little while longer."
Yeah, but
It
look at
is
the
so
number of
there,
things
man.
we're talking about here, Robert. Energy use and public safety and uh, optimizing traffic management, as I was alluding to before. I mean, there's just so much that can be done with AI. We're just on the cusp of that, really.
Yeah, totally are. And understanding where the potholes are, because as your Uber or Tesla or Waymo goes over the pothole, it can judge how bad that pothole is until the city, hey, there's a pothole is getting deeper an inch a day. It's about to get bad, so go fill it up, you know.
Yeah, you can't blame the mayors anymore for the pothole problems, huh?
No, they'll know the potholes are there. And so will the citizens. They probably get a pothole report. In San Francisco, their potholes are deeper today.
I'm going to have a
There's
question
a lot
from a
of
list.
potholes here for some reason.
We got more potholes than most here in the Bay Area. Here's
You
Robert.
know who does it right is Spain, man. When I went to Spain, the roads were so smooth. I was like, man, how come Spain can build smooth roads and in California we got rough roads?
Well, you were in the better parts of Spain, no doubt. Spain can be pretty rough in parts too.
Yeah, probably if you get on the cobblestone. But the interstates, the roads between the cities is freaking smooth, man. Those people know how to engineer things.
Let me bring a question on here. We'll take your questions. Robert from Los Angeles wants to know what's new in quantum computing and its impact on AI development.
I just started a list like 2 days ago for quantum computing, so I'm trying to figure that out myself. Is how real is this? Is this actually, our governments using it? Probably. Are big businesses using it? They're probably playing around with it, but I haven't yet seen it come down to the consumer level yet, where it really is. Here's a service running on a quantum computer is way faster.
Well,
We
I was
know that.
reading something you wrote about the fusion of AI and quantum computing, and it was fascinating because we did a podcast with Robert Pearl, number 74, for those who are interested. It was all
Yeah.
about ChatGPT and the future of AI with respect to medicine and healthcare. And there's a lot going on there, isn't there?
Oh, totally. Something like 600 companies, I don't know, hundreds of companies that are doing AI in healthcare, and you're about to see a real revolution. Dag Kitlaus, the guy who started Siri, he's building a new company called Reba Health, and you put your finger on an iPhone camera, right? And it tells you your blood pressure just by that, right? AI is looking at the color of your skin or underneath your skin with a standard camera, no change in the hardware, all software, right? All AI.
All moving ahead with, as we said, also things like fusion of computing, quantum
Yeah.
computing. Yeah.
But to answer your question about quantum computing, we all know that someday it's going to be faster than standard old digital computers, at least for some workloads. I think we're getting close to that. I'm starting to see a new excitement in the research community, but it's still a little out there. Is it 2 years? Is it 1 year? Is it 5 years? I don't know, but it's coming. And when it does come, it has deep implications for our encryption and our security and and a whole bunch of capabilities, right? So we need to start worrying about our data a lot more and our passwords,
Well, I think
right?
you've said the one with the most, this is Yuval Harari's belief too, the one with the most data is going to win, right?
In AI, that usually is true. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about, we're talking about, let's talk about the future of privacy as long as we're dealing with the future and all this with AI. What do
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
see? What do you envision?
See these lights behind me?
Yes, I
They
do.
have they have a computer and they have a microphone, and they're from China. So in this room, I don't think I have any privacy. You shouldn't worry about the lights. You should worry about the Macintosh, because the Macintosh has a thing called Limitless running on it that's listening to this call, and it makes a transcript, right? And then it summarizes the call, and then it sends me notes. Like if you give me a task in this call and say, here's a homework project, it'll put it on my notes, and put it in my task list. So
Speaking of Macintosh, can I
what
get
is
you?
privacy in this
Uh,
world? There is privacy, at least in this world, because Limitless records everything on my local Macintosh and doesn't talk to the cloud. So the consumer is going to have to understand, is this running locally? Is this storing the data in a place where you have control of it, where you have some sense of privacy? But we're going to give all that data to another AI to talk to it about our work, right? If I had the ability to give the entire data store to like Google Gemini, I would. Google already has all my other data, right? It already has all my Gmail, my calendar, my contacts,
it's got
my
everything.
photos, everything,
Yeah.
everything. And now that I went on vacation and took pictures and sent them to all these new large language model systems like Anthropic Claude or Chat GPT, it understands everything, everything. Take a picture of what you're eating, it tells you about it. Take a picture of, a wall in the Holocaust Museum, it knows what wall you're shooting. Right? It's like, oh, this is most people haven't really figured this out, that the AI knows everything.
Question from Samantha in Tampa, Florida. How do you stay informed about the latest technological advancements and trends? I know you've been asked this a number of times.
I, I try to interview an entrepreneur every day. That's one way. I have 100,000 people on my screens, all split up in lists on X.com. I use X Pro. I don't use the standard iPhone app that much. I use X Pro, so I can literally watch, like everybody who's running an AI company. 4,000 of them is in one column, and new things pop up at the top, and I can just sit there and I don't have to refresh. It just continually. It's like the Matrix. And yeah, that's that's one way. I talk to a lot of people. I go to a lot of events, and I'm blessed by being close to San Francisco, because there's so much happening. There's like 3 or 4 events every day in San Francisco.
It's an,
I could just disappear from the world and go to events, and that's all I would do.
it's an embarrassment of riches. And
Yeah.
we've got some good questions coming in. I thank those of you sending in questions. For your questions, Greg from Reno, Nevada wants to know, Can you discuss a startup or new company that you believe is particularly innovative or disruptive?
Ooh, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I mean, you're seeing Tesla being very disruptive and has been disruptive and is about to get even more disruptive. Small company. OpenAI is certainly the one that just keeps coming up to my head. That really did change the world. I talked to the three founders of Siri about OpenAI, and they said, Adam Chire, one of the three founders, he ran the biggest AI engineering group in the world at one point. And even he said he was surprised by how good OpenAI Chat GPT was when GPT-4 came out. So that's the definition of me right there of disruption. When you get industry leaders going, whoa, that tells you something has changed.
Oh, you're kind of friendly with Musk. What do you think about all his doomsday stuff about AI?
Um, I've heard it. I, it's funny. Uh, about a year and a half ago, I was flying home from UK, and one of the top AI safety researchers sat next to me just by serendipity. And for 10 hours, he gave me the talk and told me all the ways that AI could harm us, up to existential risk. And I'm like, what are you talking about? How was AI, 20 years from now gonna go crazy and kill human beings? He was like, well, it's already better at seeing tumors and scans than doctors. And so maybe at some point it decides it doesn't need us anymore because it's better than us at everything. Might
Yeah,
go
I
unaligned. This is why my show is called Unaligned, because it might go unaligned. It might go anti-human and do something anti-human because it decides it doesn't need us.
a lot of that
So
science
there is a
fiction
risk
stuff,
of that.
I think, I see it as mostly science fiction at this point, but
It,
that,
it is. And what we're not accounting for is the AI is going to work with us to help make sure that the AI stays aligned. Right. And there's many people studying this. I have lists of engineers who are building this stuff. A lot of them are studying AI alignment or AI safety because they know that these risks are there. That's just a big, someday it could do nasty stuff kind of thing. But it can hurt our jobs, and it is. It can bring new capabilities to us that really change what it means to be human, and that's scary and can bring some real new problems.
that's very scary stuff. Yeah. And yet you've said you've been pretty, again,
Your humanoid robot's going to know about your sex toy drawer eventually, right? That's scary to people.
yeah. And a lot of other things that may be
Yeah, you
under the
might help
radar.
clean your guns. I asked Chat GPT to help clean a gun in Virginia because my brother has guns in Virginia. And it refused to answer the question, but I did get it to answer. You can fool it to answering the question. It knows the answer. It's just the AI safety people don't want to help the gun nuts out, right?
You mentioned jobs, though, and you're pretty positive about jobs, even with AI. Why?
There's a lot of things to do. Even if all jobs ended right now, like gone, no more jobs. I've talked to rich people who don't need to work for money. And they say, I sat on the beach for 2 years and then they went back to work because a human being needs something to do. So we're going to invent new jobs, even if there is no job. Because sitting at home just listening to music or watching TV, it's fun for a couple months, but it gets boring after a while. You want to go do things.
We're talking to Robert Scoble, and I'm going to go to some more questions in a minute, but I have to ask you.
But there are a lot of new jobs coming.
I hope you're right
Robots are
about
gonna.
that. I really
I'm
do
gonna
hope
have a
you're right.
little fruit trading business on my street with my Optimus. Is gonna go around and collect all the fruit from all the trees and pay those people and sell everybody with some lemons or something. That's a job, right? There's going to be a lot of new metaverse stuff coming because there's new kinds of glasses coming. I just was at the Display Week show a couple of weeks ago, and they have new augmented reality glasses that are going to be AI driven. Well, what are you going to do in those? I sell costumes, sell art cars, sell land, all sorts of stuff. I'm speaking at a metaverse conference in a couple of weeks. So I'm thinking about that. There's all sorts of new jobs there.
Digital twin not far off, says Robert Scoble.
Uh, did I show you my Vision Pro? When you put this on and you see the room around you, you're not seeing the room. You're seeing the digital twin. You're not seeing any reality. If the device goes off, you can't see reality. It's
But when you're
black.
talking about digital twin, you're talking about something far more substantial, even, aren't you? You're talking
It
again about,
turns
yeah.
the Vision Pro has 6 cameras on the front of it, and it turns your room into a digital. It makes a digital copy of your room. It turns your room into volumetric pixels, billions of them all around you, which a computer is controlling. You're seeing when you go to the Apple Store and get the demo, and everybody should do it, right? It's a great demo. It's just a heavy device and it's too expensive, but it is the future. When you put it on the Apple Store and you look around and you see the Apple Store around you, you're not seeing the Apple Store. You're seeing the digital twin of the Apple Store.
Digital twin of our homes, our apartments, our places.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Everything. Your hands.
Not far away, huh?
It's here right now.
No, I know it's here right now, but I'm talking about.
If you have $3,500, you can have it today. Yeah.
Well, here's Uncle Mike from Los Angeles.
I talk to every couple of days. I talk with this researcher from Unity. Unity is they made the platform that a lot of video games are built on, but now they're building platforms for the digital twins of the world. And we talk about this a lot with Unity. Unity has an app. When you put the Vision Pro on, you can cut your kitchen in half, and the other half is your kitchen. And I see you in your kitchen, and you see me in my kitchen. And what's weird is I can walk into your kitchen and give you advice on the food you're making, right? Because we're moving around a digital twin of our house.
Got it. Here's Michael, otherwise known as Uncle Mike. Hi, Robert. Thank you for all you do in the tech space. My question, are you familiar with the AI app FYI founded by musician producer William? If so, your thoughts?
Will.i.am. I haven't seen his thing, so I'm not real familiar with that. I'll have to do some research and get back to you later.
Maybe somebody else can give us some information in the meantime. If so,
I have 5,000 companies on X.com, all AI companies and lists, and so it's hard for me to keep track of all 5,000 at this point. And they're on, and I put them on the list.
5,000 and growing, I presume. Huh?
Yeah, I just found a couple. One just came out of stealth this morning, right? So as soon as I see some new company, I put them on the list. Yeah.
Here's Tim from Austin, Texas, wants to know what role, thanks for the question, Tim, what role do you think user experience design plays in the success of a tech product?
Huge. I worked at Microsoft, and one day I worked at the support lines, taking phone calls from customers. And I had to work with a customer who really struggled to drag an icon across the screen. It took me I don't know, 20 minutes just to get her to figure out how to touch the button on the mouse and drag it across the screen. That's hard for a lot of people, right? We in the computer industry, we learned that like 40 years ago. So we just take it for granted. You push the button and you drag an icon. But for some people, that's really tough. So user interface plays a huge role in making a popular product. And the user interface that AIs are going to bring is like next level. There was just a conference of AI driven user interfaces, and the AI could make a whole menuing system live for you, right? And present you new kinds of menus or new kinds of pictures or new kinds of charts or new kinds of buttons or new kinds of whatever's. This is a new field of user interface that's AI driven. And that is going to bring a lot of people into computing because they can get the computer to talk to them in the way that they want the computer to talk to them and that they use best. If it's with your voice, no problem. If it's with a menuing system, no problem. If it's in a different kind of language, right? Because the LLMs can translate to, I don't know, 101 company said 126 different languages already, including emojis. You can send an emoji to the chat GPT and it'll give you an answer of what that emoji means, right?
Adding languages every day too. I mean, finding languages, for example, that we thought were lost, and that's a really exciting
Here's
area.
one. I'm reading this machine learning book that
Yeah.
Francis Scoble wrote. It has a lot of math in it, right? A lot of equations. I don't understand that stuff. I take a picture of the book, the page that I'm reading, send it to ChatGPT, and I say, "Hey, ChatGPT, can you read this book as if I was 12 years old?" Right, and talk to me in like 12-year-old language, or if that's too advanced, 8-year-old language, right? And it does. It translates the math. Well, what Francis is trying to do here is this, and it explains it to you in common language. So if you can do that with a machine learning book, you can do that with the Bible. I tell a lot of people you can have AI help you read the Bible to start understanding the power of AI. Well, it can also help you read any book.
Yeah. The Bible has a lot in it that some people say should be technically censored, or there. But that's another
Well, that's
story.
one argument.
Yeah. I mean, there's more coupling and more, going on that
We
level
could
that there
argue
is in
which
many
Bible
books.
are we reading? Are we reading the King James or the New Testament, or or some new weird thing from the Mormon Church, or.
The Mormon Church does have its own Bible. Good point. Here's
Yeah.
Manny from Richmond, Virginia, who says, "What role do you think virtual reality will play?" Boy, it's a big question, Manny, but thank you for it. Hear what Robert has to say. Virtual reality will play in education and training.
Oh,
I mean,
huge,
integral and instrumental is really what's coming to
huge.
my mind.
A company named Reflect in Germany showed me their augmented reality that they built for Mercedes-Benz for first responders. So the first respond, let's say you have a bad car wreck in a Mercedes-Benz and you're stuck in your car, the firefighter can use an iPad as they come up to your car to know how to cut apart your car to save your life without hitting more fuel lines or electrical lines and causing an even bigger mess. Right. And they already have 40 years of cars done for the firefighters. All the Mercedes Benz have this capability, and it teaches you in real time. Right. It shows you on the car, don't cut there. Right. Or cut here. Right. With your jaws of life kind of thing. So yeah, education is about to radically change. I mean, there's an app called Nanome in VR, which is for material scientists, chemical kind of people. And when I got a demo of this, they had the COVID virus blown up bigger than my house, and you could see the chemical structure of the thing, and you could touch it or put your head in it or make it even bigger if you didn't have the ability to really understand it. And around me were three scientists who were joining me virtually, who were pointing out different things to me like, oh, check this out, right? This is how we're going to attack it with a vaccine, right? Or keep it from attaching the human body in this way, right? You can very quickly learn about chemistry or material science or anything pretty advanced very quickly because you're in VR and able to visualize this thing in a way that you just couldn't do with
I
technology
was
before.
reading something that you had to say, just comes to mind about positive about video games, about one of your kids learning about the Civil War and expanding knowledge through video game.
Yeah.
That's again, we get into the positive side. The negative side is you can get addicted to the video games, right?
Oh, addiction is a problem for everybody. I mean, I'm walking around New York, everybody's staring at their phone, walking around, I mean, it's,
Neural pathways changing while you're doing that, maybe.
we're all addicted. But he did know about we went to Antietam, which is the site of the deadliest battle in American history. And yeah, he knew everything about the field. I'm like, how do you know the name of this church? He's like, Dad, I play a video game here every couple of days with my friends. I'm like, oh, that's weird. So you learn the whole layout of this big place just by playing a video game. Wow, that's cool, right? Now, I said I still bet ChatGPT knows more about the church than you do, and it did, right? You take a picture of the church and it tells you when it was built, when it was torn down, when it was rebuilt, when it was what's the historical relevance of that place, what actually happened there. It can recreate some scenes around it and recreate, show me a picture of what this looked like in the Civil War. And it did. It sends you a picture of the battle going down right around you, right?
Another question for you from Reed in Santa Rosa. Does AI have something to contribute to preventing cataclysmic climate change? How? Thanks for the question, Reed.
both good and bad. First of all, AI takes a lot of power. So, are you generating that power with coal? That's real nasty for the environment. Are you generating with a solar panel? Oh, that's pretty good. Are you generating with a nuclear power? That's better for the environment, for the climate change, but it has a new mess to clean to take care of. You have rods eventually that you have to recycle or store forever, for a long time at least. So, there's always a good and bad, but once we pay for the power and do that, it will help us a lot in trying to figure out what to do about various things, how to come up with new machines that'll pull carbon out of there, right? Or keep carbon from going in the air from a factory, right?
So many ways of talking about AI and trying to look in the crystal ball and seeing, what kind of impact it's having now within the moment, but let alone in the future. Just wondering about something else. I've been reading a lot of stuff that you've written and a lot of interviews that you've done and so forth, and kind of a bigger picture question that piques my curiosity. You were talking about and we're on the same wavelength with this, the need for a new GI Bill. I'm with you 100% on that. But you also said we need a new American dream. And as a
Yeah.
longtime serious student and professor of American civilization, American culture, and so forth, what do you mean by a new American dream?
My dad escaped poverty by going in the army and getting a GI Bill, which give him the wealth to get a PhD at Rutgers University, right? That's not cheap. Going to Stanford today for your kids is 70,000 a year, right? Most families don't have that kind of wealth to send their kids to a good school. Um, if you're going to have a truck driver that loses his or her job because technology comes along and does the job better than they do, and it's coming sometime soon, certainly in the next 15 years, then we need a new dream for that person. We need a way for that person to be able to retrain at minimum. Right. There's plenty of jobs right now. So maybe someday there won't be any jobs, and then we'll have to get into the guaranteed minimum income and keeping everybody afloat. Maybe the robots are all paying us some money because the robot took our job and they're being taxed or whatever. But I selling that kind of dream to Americans is really difficult because most Americans are like, that's socialism. I don't want to support that. Right? That's anti-American. That's dismal, and they're right. If you go to the where we put the Native Americans and reservations, they get a little bit of guaranteed minimum income, and it's a dismal place to be. A lot of alcoholism, a lot of hopelessness. Humans need a mission, need a job, need
Purpose.
something to do, purpose, right? Even if you're not getting paid, you need something to do. So I'm like, is there a better way to do this? Go back to, what took my dad out of poverty was the GI Bill. You got to give a truck driver 4 years to get his or her shit together and go and learn something new. And not have to work 3 jobs to put food on the table, right? Because you can't go to a school, you can't go to university and get a new degree if you're having to drive Uber car for 12 hours a day just to put food on the table,
So
right?
you're talking about a socialist new American dream, maybe in part, aren't you?
Yeah, new. If our government was actually together and rational, that's what we would be pitching right
Are
now. It's a
competent.
little.
Yeah.
Well, it's divided and not competent. There's a lot of problems and corrupt, but we need to have this discussion because there is a jobs problem coming for a lot of people, and they need a new shot at a new dream, right?
Well, there was all this talk, especially by people like Al Gore, about the jobs that would come about as we move toward environmental revolution and being more environmental minded, jobs would proliferate and so forth. And the
There's a
promises.
lot of things still to do, right?
Oh, that's
There's a
true.
lot.
But
If you have a technical degree, you can start an AI company, right? But those are very technical jobs. It's not. How do you get a truck driver to get one of those jobs? That's that you got to have a lot of motivation for change and a lot of time and a lot of money for that person to, even if they had the motivation, I need to get out of the truck driving business and into something, more technical, even make that person a plumber. It takes 3 or 4 years just to learn to be a plumber. My brother-in-law, he left an executive job, a tech executive job. Now he runs a glass shop. It took him 4 years to get all the skills and be an apprentice to somebody else, and then take the test, to get the license. It's not easy, right?
speaking about just this whole idea of a new dream and all, I was reading something about your friend. I think he's a friend of yours, Wozniak. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, in fact, you might even tell that terrific story about $45,000 worth of Macintosh computers going back to your college days. But he
yeah.
just recently gave a
No, just his printer. Just his print. The printer sitting next to me is like a $70 printer. It's way better than his printer was in 1989. It cost $45,000 for a color printer to run
There you
Photoshop.
go. Well, and that's what's going to happen with AI and everything else. I mean, we can predict that. But I'm just thinking about Wozniak because he just gave a commencement speech in Colorado, and he was
Yeah.
saying, I don't want to necessarily, here you're wearing your Apple shirt, I don't want to necessarily be remembered as the co-founder of Apple. What I want to be remembered, what I want to cherish in my life are the times I laughed, the pranks I did, the jokes I pulled, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting philosophy in terms of what's the American dream? It's not founding a company, as he puts it. It's what you get out of life in terms of joy.
I bug him. I'm like, hey, Waz, did you ever think you were going to start the largest Pilates company in the world? Which he did, right? Because Apple is the largest Pilates educator now, and they have a whole fitness service as part of, right? And he's like, hell no, I didn't have any idea any of this shit would come.
Who
But
could
he
predict?
he is a funny guy. He had a joke line back in the 70s. You could call his joke line and he'd pick up the phone and tell you a joke and then hang up. Yeah.
What do you fear about AI? I mean, you're all bullish about it and optimistic, but like we said before,
Oh
there's
man.
the consequences.
When we get into the Neuralink world, and that's coming, right? We already know there's one human being with it, tens of thousands of wires on his brain that is integrating with a computer. And when you put wires on your brain, you give up free will. Yeah, that's a big statement. We talk about this a lot with Dylan on his VR consciousness show on X. Um, you give up free will, and that means that something else can control you, right? I saw a brain surgery where the patient was awake and the surgeon was probing the guy's brain, and the patient's hand went up involuntarily. So if I have access to your brain, I can make you do things and you can't stop it. You can't control it. You're just doing the thing, right? Because you're a human machine. Most people haven't figured that out, but we're all a machine. We're very, very different than a computing machine, but we're still a machine. And if we hook wires up to you don't have free will anymore. Elon can make you do things.
Since you mentioned
Which is
Elon making us do things, can I get you on record about X and what you think about the changes under him?
I'm still waiting for the good ones. The news feed is getting way better. The AI is really starting to improve things, in a small way, maybe at first, but we can see things are getting better there. Um, I mean, OpenAI, ChatGPT really is the first everything app I've seen, right? You talk to it about everything. You take a picture about everything, and it knows everything about what you took a picture of. I took a picture of my Philly cheesesteak sandwich. By the way, it told me where to find a Philly cheesesteak sandwich in Philadelphia and find the best one, right? Because that was the question. Hey, ChatGPT, where's the best Philly cheesesteak sandwich in Philadelphia? And it was accurate and took me to a badass place. Then I took a picture of the sandwich and it told me, oh, yeah, you're having a Philly cheesesteak sandwich. That looks pretty good. I'm like, what?
Did it ask for a bite?
Well, more accurately, if you took a picture of somebody's soup, like I took pictures of my wife's friend's Iranian soup. It told me the name of the soup. It told me the cultural relevance of the soup. It told me how to say the name in Farsi. It told me what the ingredients were in the soup. It told me how to make the soup, all from a picture.
What do you think? Let's get back to Musk for a minute. What do you think about his criticism of Apple with these store fees, the App Store fees?
Everybody's going to hate paying 30% for their costumes or their art cars or their land or, the virtual thing in the virtual metaverse someday. We're already getting tired of paying 30%. This is going to be a big fight. The EU is going after Apple about this, right? And has a big stick to force Apple to change. So things changes in the air even for Apple, right? They just did a deal with OpenAI. OpenAI has a store to sell you GPTs. So did Apple just enable a new kind of store? I don't know. We'll see how that works out over time.
So you keep up on all this. I mean, you make it your business, your life, really, don't you?
I force myself to use new technology like when I'm on vacation in the Smithsonian, right? How many other people? I met a lot of people, hey, did you know you could take a picture of this exhibit and talk to an AI about it? No, I didn't know that. What? Right? Most people have no clue what is going down in
Well,
this
that brings
industry.
up another important question. How do you educate the public about all this? I mean, there's a lot to
Whew.
learn here, really.
Um, it's a job for Apple because Apple has stores and education and they give classes, right? It's a real problem because how do you get people to consider an autonomous car? Ford had me go around America asking people, are you ready to get in a car without a steering wheel? Most people said, fuck no. One guy in Kansas told me, I'm a narcissistic control freak, and there's no effing way a piece of computer is going to drive me around. I got to be in control, right? So how do you convince that person to take an autonomous car? Google, by the way, head of R&D at Google told me, oh, we have the data to prove that after 3 rides, they probably won't drive again. I'm like, what? How do you know that? He goes, well, remember the little bubble cars? Like if you go to the Computer History Museum here in Silicon Valley, in the lobby is one of the Google bubble cars. It only went like 25 miles an hour, a little tiny car. I'm like, he asked me, why do you think we did that? I go, I don't know. Did you get a good deal on shitty, small, slow moving cars? What happened? He goes, no, no, no. When we gave the full size Lexus to employees, he told me they had the employees sign a contract that you would be fired if you took your hand off the steering wheel and your eye away from the road. And there's a camera looking at you, and there's a sensor on the steering wheel that senses you're not touching the steering wheel anymore. Sort of like a Tesla has the same thing now, right?
This is an
Everybody,
obstacle, then, really, isn't it? I mean, in
everybody
terms of,
broke the rule.
yeah,
Everybody, executives and low level employees, everybody broke the rule in 3 days.
yeah.
So they said, "Oh shit, we have a new legal problem because back then, this was 10 years ago, the autonomous car wasn't good enough. It's sort of like Tesla's today. It still makes mistakes here and there. So you don't want people to take their attention off the road. You're helping the car drive, and therefore you're helping train the car how to fix problems. Your attention is needed for a little bit more time." But nobody was paying attention to the car because it was so boring watching the car work because 10 years ago it was pretty good. Now it's really, really good. You can take a ride in one in San Francisco, right? Without a human in it.
Keeps getting better, right?
Uh, that's what AI does. It always starts worse than a child, right? If you watch the documentary on Netflix or somewhere about the team that beat the Go players,
Yeah.
top Go players, that AI couldn't beat a child at first. It sucked, but it keeps learning, keeps learning, keeps learning, keeps learning. Eventually, it beats the child. Eventually, it beats the teenager. Eventually, it beats the adult, and then eventually, it beats the best human being.
Yeah. Remember when it was losing those chess championships. I mean, in terms of playing world class champions and simply not being able to. Now they can beat them regularly. I think AI can
Yeah.
beat the chess champs.
The guy who ran IBM Watson told me what we showed you on TV is AI can beat the human at the game of Jeopardy. What we didn't show you is if you take human and AI, it will beat AI alone. Humans bring a little weirdness to the table. And once in a while, we see something that the computer that doesn't understand or get. And that's when we can add some extra sauce. Now, how long will that be true for? I don't know, but right now that still is pretty much the case in many places.
So, what do you see in terms of the ongoing digital divide? I mean, there are a lot of people who won't be able to avail themselves of AI, won't be able to afford it, aren't educated
Uh,
enough. Yeah.
how many decades do we got? The people making the glasses, Loomis from Israel comes to my house every year and shows me the latest waveguides that are coming in the glasses of the future. They know that they can build the glasses cheaper than they can build your cell phone. So if you can afford a cell phone, right? You got an iPhone in your hand or an Android phone. Well, the glasses should be cheaper than that someday. Right now, they have a lot of R&D costs that they have to recoup. So the cost is, this device costs $3,500. That won't be true in 10 years, right?
You still writing books with Shell Israel? Speaking about Israel,
Not with Shell, with Irina Cronin. I've written a couple, and we're rewriting our spatial computing book. We wrote a spatial computing book before Apple shipped its spatial computer. So
you collaborated on a number of other books. As a matter of fact, what's the name of the woman who is your co-author?
Irina
Yeah,
Cronin. We wrote a book on the metaverse together. Yeah, we have fun.
you did a few
See you in
books
the
together.
future. Yeah, she's really good at analyzing companies. She has a talent for that. So
Are you hired still for that kind of work?
yeah, we're doing one right now for Pact, big book publisher.
What are you doing?
We're rewriting the spatial computing book, the Infinite Retina. Because now that Apple's out, and things have changed, and now robots are really coming along, and this technology is really coming along. So now you got to say something new than we said 4 years ago or 3 years ago.
What's most exciting to you now with AI?
I still am excited about the autonomous cars. Two of my best friends in high school died in a car wreck. So I've studied safety and driving for a long time and interviewed Ford's head of safety and had the first ride in the Mercedes autonomous car and had the first ride in the Tesla. For a long time, I studied automotive innovation because all the R&D labs from all the car companies moved to my neighborhood. When I grew up, that was not true, right? There was no car companies here in Silicon Valley. They're all here now. Mercedes, GM, Kia, Ford, they all have their R&D labs here because this is the race to get an autonomous car done.
Are you fearful about hacking with autonomous cars?
It's funny. I asked the Mercedes engineers, why aren't you putting a computer in your glove compartment like Tesla has that runs the car and can always update and always upload data to the cloud computing to tell it all sorts of, oh, we're scared of getting hacked because we're Mercedes. We're a global corporation. But have you heard of a Tesla getting hacked?
Not yet.
Here and there, but not in a big
No,
way
that's what I was
because
talking about. Not in a big way. No.
yeah, because the engineers have made it very hard to hack. For instance, if the computer says turn right, the another system is watching the sensors to make sure that the car actually turned right. If you hacked it to turn left instead of turning right, put me in a wall or something, the car would know something's wrong because it didn't follow the directions, right? And that system makes it and others make it very hard to hack.
I said, by the way, before we began, that I wanted to get your thoughts about politics. I know you shy away a little bit from politics. You're in the tech world, but
What are you talking about? I have the only pictures of the last presidential candidate sex scandal going down in a private jet. So I've had my fingers in politics.
I'm
My
being a little,
picture of Ronald Reagan is still on the is still hanging in the Republican headquarters here in Silicon Valley
yeah, I'm being a
from
little facetious with
1984.
you, Robert. You could have sold those photographs for a nice profit. But I'm thinking,
Maybe.
well, down where
Whereas
you,
if I'd known, this is a lesson for journalists. Sometimes you take a picture of two people and you have no idea that's an international news story.
you see AI
It-
affecting photography, by the way, it's got to. It
oh,
already is, right?
oh, deeply,
Yeah.
deeply. Yeah. I mean,
So,
it's already making all your iPhone pictures better, right? When you take a picture with your iPhone, AI is making a shitty little chip actually make a nice looking picture, right? So already AI is affecting photography, but what's about to come now that the, if you go to Yosemite National Park, you take a picture of Half Dome, your AI knows you're taking a picture of Half Dome and knows where you're standing just from the picture without looking at any of the other sensors. So if it can do that, can't it recreate the whole valley around you with a single picture? Can't it tell you where to stand to take a better picture? Because I know if I took you to Yosemite, I could tell you that, right? I could say, stand at this bridge, you'll get a nice shot of Half Dome. Stand at this place, you'll get a nice shot of the Yosemite Falls. I've taken all those pictures, right? Ansel Adams' son walked me around Yosemite National Park telling me where his dad shot pictures. That'd be another one. Take me on the Ansel Adams tour. Tell me where Moonrise over Half Dome was shot. It'll tell you right where it was shot just by looking at the picture that, there, there's ways to do this now.
increasingly
So a
more
new kind of
difficult
cameras
for
come.
commercial photographers, though. No,
You know, if you talk to Annie Leibovitz,
I haven't in
about
years, but
about photography. She walked me around her gallery, or anybody of note. Um, there's still a human skill to bring to bear, right? Look at how Trey Ratcliffe, famous photographer, is using AI. He's getting better stuff out of AI than I do. Why? Because he's skilled at visual arts. He understands how to think visually and how to get a better image. Uh, and now he understands how to prompt these things. I know some AI artists who've done 200,000, 300,000 prompts of AI, of like Midjourney. So those people know how to run the AI to get a really good image. I'm not that good.
I wanted to say one thing about the debate last night, and then I want to hear what you have to say as a tech spokesperson. Um, a few years back, when George W. Bush was running for president and Arnold Schwarzenegger, governor of California, I was asked to give a talk at the Stanford Medical faculty down where you are,
Yeah.
South Bay, and it was. I was asked about politics. I said, "You're not going to like what I have to say because I think Schwarzenegger is going to be governor and George Bush is going to be reelected president." I'm usually not very prescient about politics, but this is what I went
Yeah.
on record as saying. And the reason I said that was I believe there were two things that were instrumental in getting a president elected. One was perception of strength, the other was likability. Last night, we did not see perception of strength in Joe Biden. I
No.
mean, it's rare to see likability in Donald Trump. Even the MAGA people maybe feel differently about that. So when you have those two things going against each other, and my idealization of this, it's in my analytics, it's unique,
Yeah.
hard to analyze. But if you had to say who's best for technology, Democrats, Republicans, I mean, you get arguments down there in Silicon Valley from both sides, very adamant and
Yeah.
passionate.
Depends what business you're in, right? If you're in the more of the military side, you probably are like, let's go. Um, Biden is in trouble. I didn't watch it, truth be told. I watched it on X. I watched what other 100,000 other people were saying, and it was very convincing Biden is in trouble.
But
And so,
generally, who would you say, or which party? We've got a two-party system still. Which party is more tech supportive or more tech wise, for that matter, as
they
you
they
say?
both have their pros and the cons, right? Even the Democrats, maybe they're better. I'm a Democrat. I like Democrats. But they fucked up San Francisco. They didn't take care of the homeless problem, right? It's a Democrat run state. It's a Democrat run city. It's a Democrat run county. can't lay that blame on what's going on in downtown San Francisco on the Republicans.
Okay.
So
Just wanted to hear what you had to say, and I thank you for that.
yeah, there politics. I'm trying not to be tribal about politics anymore. I've been on both sides of the tribes. I learned church. I learned TV in a church. I was Republican for a decade, right? Pretty conservative.
We got many people down there where you are in Silicon Valley, especially in the tech industry, who say, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm a libertarian. And they try to
I
hold
hate
up.
those people. Libertarians are great for the world as long as you have the biggest gun.
Let me leave it there. I want to, first of all, thank all who joined us for this live episode of Gray Matter with Michael Krasny, which you can listen to live every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, or on Apple, Spotify, or on our website at graymatter.show. If you haven't yet become a member of this podcast, I invite you to join by going to the website, graymatter.show, where you can find all the previous episodes of Gray Matter with Michael Krasny. And again, that's Gray with an E. Also invite you to mail any reactions or suggestions you might have to me at mkrasny@graymatter.show. And thank our great team, Gray Matter with Michael Krasny team of Alex, Shannon, Chad, Kevin, Colin, Jeff, and Colleen, and Tanya. And a special thanks to this week's guest, Robert Scoble. Good to have you with us, sir. Thank you.
Thanks. You're a pro.
Thank you.
You've done this a few times.
Just a few, yeah. And so have you. Really enjoyed
it
talking
shows.
to you. Thank you so much. I'm Michael Krasny.